We're back, and so is Rod Martin. Praise the Lord. Rod is one of our favorite guests, featured contributor to this program and so many others. He is also the host of the Rod Martin Report at rodmartin.org. He is the chairman of the board of our Institute for the American Future, and founding member of the PayPal Mafia back in the day, and a successful and accomplished entrepreneur in the time between. And we're always delighted to be able to pick one of the great free-range minds of our time. Rod, it's good to have you back in the house. Virtually.
You're very kind. It's good to be here.
Well, all warranted. Let me just start by asking you about a topic we discussed earlier in the program with George Racely, because I'd like to get your thoughts on it as well. I think it's the most extraordinary thing I have seen in almost half a century of public policy activity of one kind or another. Namely, this presentation by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, reaching the conclusion that a conspiracy that she characterized as treasonous was mounted to deprive Donald Trump of the presidency, or at least so undermine it if he actually managed to get into office, as to make him ineffective. Mounted by none other than Barack Obama and his minions, many of whom were assembled for the purposes of launching such a conspiracy in the Situation Room of the White House in early December of 2016. A friend of mine, and I think yours perhaps, Donald Richardson, Dr. Richardson, coined this term, I think, or at least first put it into play with me, Obamagate, to describe this as a scandal that makes Watergate look like, a church social. What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, the key word is conspiracy. And this is really important because, from a legal perspective, because Kash Patel laid the foundation for this more than a week ago in announcing a wide-ranging investigation into a grand conspiracy to do exactly these things. And the effect of that is twofold. One, it eliminates the issue of statute of limitations. So Hillary's email server is back in play. What Comey did to not go after her, as it were, is in play. All the things they did along the way that built up to the ultimate outcome are in play. Whereas
because under the statute of limitations laws, a conspiracy that
previously
predates
much of
a criminal
was subject to a 5-year statute of limitations, which is why it was so important to capture the White House in 2020, because they needed time for the statute to run. What if John Durham actually came back and did something, for heaven's sake? What if Donald Trump got wise to William Barr being a complete double agent and replaced him with somebody real? There would have been time to act on a lot of these things, if not most of these things. So the grand conspiracy angle is creative. It is tremendously useful from a limitations perspective, but it also opens the door to prosecutions outside of the District of Columbia. And I can assure you, if they prosecute any of these people in the District of Columbia, they're getting off. There's absolutely no point. You can't get a fair trial of a Democrat or a Republican for completely opposite reasons in D.C. So if we bring some of these cases in places like Florida, you've actually got a shot. And it's just a complete game changer.
So I just want to clarify this one point, Rod. The statute of limitations has been effectively repealed for the purposes of this criminal investigation because that's what happens when you are dealing with an investigation into a conspiracy? Is that
well, if it's an ongoing conspiracy, then there isn't an end point at which you start counting the 5 years. I mean, this has continued into the relative present if it isn't currently ongoing. And that, of course, is part of what Kash is trying to figure out. So once they figure out the parameters of that, they're going to know what can and can't be prosecuted. They've also got to find a nexus with federal courts that are outside of D.C., which they will. That will not be a problem, but they have to actually get it meticulously correct, because if they don't, this all fails. And that's the last thing you can afford. So I saw over on American Spectator the headline this morning, punish or perish. It's like, yeah, exactly. You can't go uncorking this and not get a tremendous amount of eye rolling from the base, which we're seeing everywhere. Oh, this will never happen. Nobody will ever go to jail. No, Donald Trump didn't go after this to then just let it go. He's spent 4 years in exile, being prosecuted in multiple states, actually having the FBI more or less knock down the doors of Mar-a-Lago with shoot-to-kill orders, for heaven's sake. And if anybody offers resistance from the butler to Barron, you're ordered to shoot them. Come on. I mean, Donald Trump did not come all this way and fight through all this stuff to not mete out justice here. And this is horrifying. When we say Obamagate or Russiagate or whatever gate, what we kind of implicitly miss is that truly this makes Watergate look like nothing. This makes Teapot Dome look like nothing. This wasn't like those things. This is like the Civil War. This was an actual effort by Democrats, as it was in the 1860s, to overthrow the government. Just a little more subtly, if you can call that subtle.
Yeah. Bloodlessly, I guess, is the
Yes.
operative term. Rod, this is enormously important, and I guess in 15 seconds, you find the evidence compelling?
Everything I've seen, I mean, I'm sure they have a lot that we haven't, but what has been released is just damning.
We'll pick up on that point on the other side of a very short break. I hope you'll stay tuned for more with Rod Martin. We're going to talk as well about Russia and Donald Trump, not as partners in crime, as was alleged, but possible partners for peace. That and more. Stay tuned. We're back, and we are visiting with Rod Martin, a dear friend, as well as a very highly esteemed comrade in arms, freedom fighter, and an extraordinary patriot. And he is, among other things, the chairman of the board of the organization that makes this program possible, with, I hope, your support. Check it out at usfuture.org. That's the homepage of the Institute for the American Future. Rod, there's so much to talk with you about, and I did want to pick your brains about something that is, well, a work in progress, unquestionably, and where exactly it's headed is unclear to me, so maybe you can help us get a better understanding. Donald Trump came to office promising that he was going to effect a peace with Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours, famously at one point. He's subsequently said, well, that was being facetious, but it's proving very hard to do, not least because having tried to romance Vladimir Putin, having tried to distance himself from Zelensky and Ukraine, and a variety of, tactical shifts in his position with respect to both in the past, it is now 6 months or so, he is seemingly increasingly frustrated with, if not actually prepared to, take some rather punitive steps against Putin, and is shipping arms, including some that might, or indirectly shipping arms through the Europeans, that might be capable of doing a lot of damage in Russia. Where are we in all of this, and where do you think it's going to go?
Well, we tried the carrot, and now we're going to hit him with the stick. Maybe 6 or 7 sticks. I would expect a minimum of 2. The first one is, and we have this 50-day clock running. I would pay attention to that. Iran did not pay attention to its 60-day clock, and on day 61, the Israelis started bombing the crud out of them. And I mean, is there an Iranian Air Force anymore? Not that anyone can discern. Is there an Iranian nuclear program? Well, buried under a mountain. So, that did not go well for them. And they made a lot of noise about how we'll never negotiate. And then they're out talking about their negotiations, yesterday. So, this is not going to go well for Russia either. And no, we're not going to bomb Moscow. But at the same time, Ukraine totally can. It's completely fair game for them. So at the end of that 50-day clock, if we don't have a breakthrough, I think what happens is you start hitting Russia with...
Let me just ask you, back up just a second. Donald Trump has given 50 days for what to happen? The completed
For Russia
agreement?
to negotiate in good faith, or for the whirlwind to be unleashed. And I think
not necessarily to get an agreement, but to be engaged in good faith negotiations
in something serious. Okay. And the judge of seriousness is Donald Trump. So you got to satisfy him. And if that's not the case, then first of all, secondary sanctions, that's going to be at least 100% tariff on anybody who is buying stuff from Russia, or selling to them for that matter. Well, that smacks India hard. That smacks Brazil. That really hits China. And can they afford this? Well, maybe they'll decide they can. We'll see. But my guess is what it does is it puts tremendous pressure on them to push Putin to the peace table. So that's stick number one. Stick number two is I think he'll just give Ukraine everything that isn't nailed down. And yes, it's about time the Europeans paid for some of that. The Europeans have sent twice as much money to Moscow since the beginning of the war for energy, which they're still buying from Russia, than they have to Ukraine for aid. And they don't have any capacity to send real military aid. There's one TNT plant in all of Europe. It's absurd. They've completely demilitarized. So it's good to see that they're ginning back up and that they're going to build real militaries and they're actually going to be American partners instead of American dependents. That's all good, but that's also all in the future. Right now, we can produce weapons. They can pay for them. And Trump's going to send them until Russia cries uncle. We're going to make this happen.
And Rod, something you said that I'm sure will alarm a lot of people is Ukraine can use those weapons, some of which are going to be longish range, as they see fit. And they are perfectly capable, I think you put it as starkly as this, of attacking Moscow. They've done it in the past, with mixed results. But is there reason to be concerned that that invites World War III against, or IV, or whatever number we're up to now, against us as the enabler of such attacks, do you think?
Probably less after what we saw Russia not do in Iran. Supposedly Russia and China were going to blow up the world to help Iran, and I always said that was silly because Russia and China wouldn't even sell them modern fighter jets. So why are they going to invite World War III on themselves for somebody they don't like that much? So here, okay, Putin has repeatedly threatened to nuke this or that or the other and hadn't done it. And Ukraine has been quite effective, I think, in a number of its strikes that you would think would invite that kind of retaliation if anything was going to. Certainly hitting the bomber fleet is a direct destruction of part of Russia's nuclear triad. That's pretty provocative, and they didn't do anything. So my guess is what we're going to see is Trump continually saying, we're going to come to a peace. You're going to end up with Crimea. You're going to end up with the parts of Donbass that don't want to be part of Ukraine anyway. We're all going to be friends, and we're going to detach you from your colonial subservience to China. And this is going to be good for everybody. And if you have enough pressure on Putin, I think eventually we get there.
15 seconds. Do you think you can create that kind of divorce between Russia and China?
I think that it's hard to see it from the Russian perspective at the moment, but in reality, China has turned them into a colony, and that will only get worse. And if we can show them a better path, they have to get out of the one they're on.
Rob Martin, as always, provocative and insightful. Thank you for joining us. Come back next week if you would. Hope the rest of you will come back next time. Until then, that you go forth and multiply.